Have you ever had a roommate so awful, a job so soul-crushing, or a family so unbearable that you fantasized about bricking yourself into a wall just to get some peace and quiet? Congratulations, you've just stumbled upon the medieval career path of an anchoress. It turns out that sealing yourself into a stone box attached to a church was considered a genuine, even desirable, life goal for many women, which should tell you everything you need to know about their options. Greetings, my dears. Settle in comfortably for another relaxing excursion into the absolute misery of the past. Tonight, we're exploring a lifestyle choice that makes your worst pandemic lockdown look like a luxury all-inclusive resort. And later, we'll delve into another delightful scenario from history that will make you want to go and hug your Wi-Fi router. Take a moment to like and subscribe, but only if you enjoy systematically dismantling any romantic notions you ever had. About the past. Comment below with the medieval job you think you'd be assigned, and how long you'd last before getting fired or, exiled. I'm curious about your doomed career paths. So, let's get you settled into your life. The year is, let's say, 1348. A great year to be alive, assuming you have a vested interest in the imminent collapse of society. You are a woman, which, in the grand cosmic lottery, means you've already drawn the short straw, dipped it in manure, and set it on fire. Your career options are laughably limited. Option A, marriage. This involves being sold off to a man whose main attractive qualities are a patch of muddy land and teeth that haven't all fallen out yet. He's probably twice your age, smells like damp wool and regret, and his idea of a romantic evening is checking the grain stores and not beating the dog. Your job will be to produce a male heir. Fail to do so, or worse, die trying, and you'll be quickly replaced. It's the medieval version of a high-turnover entry-level position with a lethal severance package. Option B. You could be a servant, a weaver, or a field hand. This means a life of grueling, back-breaking labor from sunup to sundown for the privilege of earning enough to maybe not starve tomorrow. You'll be cold, you'll be hungry, and your hands will be cracked and bleeding stumps by the time you're 25. Your retirement plan is simple. You get old and die. Then there's the convent. It sounds nice. A community of women, no husbands, regular meals. But it's also a hornet's nest of social politics, run by the daughters of nobles who look down on you and your peasant stench. It's less a spiritual retreat and more like the world's most pious, high-stakes high school cafeteria. But then you hear the whispers, the talk of another way. A fourth option, the Anchoress. It's pitched to you as the ultimate act of devotion, a way to become a living saint. But you, with your keen survival instincts honed by years of avoiding spoiled food and angry geese, see it for what it really is, an escape. It's a chance to have a room of your own. Think about it. You've never had a space that was just yours. You've shared a flea-ridden mattress with 3 siblings your whole life. Privacy is a concept as alien as a balanced diet. Now, you're being offered your own place. The ultimate do not disturb sign enforced by masonry. Sure, the terms of the lease are a bit permanent. But no landlord, no roommates, no husband demanding you fetch him more ale. The solitude is the point. You won't just be avoiding people. You'll be sealed away from the Black Death knocking on the door, the roving bands of starving soldiers, and the sheer, grinding misery of daily life. It was the medieval equivalent of getting your own studio apartment, provided the studio was a coffin and the lease was for eternity. Of course, you can't just decide to do this. This isn't some spontaneous gap year to find yourself. This is a serious bureaucratic process. First, you need a patron. Someone wealthy and preferably guilt-ridden has to sponsor you. They have to pay for the construction of your little stone box, your anchor hold, and provide a small stipend for your food. You are, in essence, their outsourced piety. They get the spiritual credit for your suffering without any of the actual suffering. It's a fantastic deal for them. They're buying holiness points like a modern billionaire buying carbon offsets. So you have to make your case. You perform your piety with gusto. You're the first one at Mass. Your prayers are the loudest. Your fasting the most dramatic. You have to convince the local bishop that you are not, in fact, just trying to get out of marrying old man Fitzwilliam and his wandering hands. The bishop arrives, a portly man on a well-fed horse who looks at you with an expression of profound boredom. This is your job interview for the role of a lifetime. Literally, he asks you questions from a script. Are you prepared to forsake the temptations of the world? You nod solemnly, thinking that the world's primary temptation at this point is a turnip that isn't rotten. Do you understand that your body will be a living sacrifice, dedicated solely to prayer for the souls of all Christendom, and specifically for your generous patron, Lord Harrington? You say yes, of course, while mentally calculating how many meals Lord Harrington's donation will translate into. He doesn't ask if you're mentally stable enough to be locked in a dark room for the next 40 years. He doesn't ask if you're afraid. He just needs to tick his boxes, ensure the funding is secure, and make sure you won't be an embarrassment. He is the medieval version of a human resources manager, and your soul is the application form. You pass the interview, not because of your holiness, but because your patron's gold clinks reassuringly in the church's coffers. Congratulations, you've been approved for a lifelong subscription to solitude. Your retirement plan was literally set in stone. The community's reaction is a strange mix of awe and morbid curiosity. To them, you are about to become a celebrity, a holy relic that can still breathe. They look at you with a new respect, not as the girl who milks the cows, but as a future intercessor, someone with a direct connection to the Almighty. They don't see the terror in your eyes. They see divine purpose. They see your escape from the muck and toil as an elevation, not an imprisonment. You are their local oracle, their spiritual antenna, and the best source of town gossip, all rolled into one. The day is set for your enclosure. It is to be a massive public ceremony, because what's the point of extreme piety if you can't make a spectacle out of it? The whole village will be there. It's part funeral, part coronation. They are celebrating your death to the world, and your birth as a holy symbol. You're given a new set of simple, coarse robes to wear. They itch. Everything in this era itches. It's a constant, low-grade sensory torment. You're instructed to spend the days leading up to your enclosure in prayer and contemplation. But what you're really contemplating is the feel of the sun on your skin for the last time. You're memorizing the sound of birdsong, the smell of damp earth after it rains, the stupid, vacant face of your neighbor's sheep. These are the things you will have to live on for the rest of your life. These memories will be your only window. You lie on your lumpy straw bed and listen to the sounds of the world outside, a world you are about to leave forever. A world of filth, disease, and hardship. Yes, but also a world of sky and wind and motion. You're trading all of it for 4 stone walls, a slot for food, and a view of the graveyard. And the most terrifying part? You know with absolute certainty that you're getting the better deal. The sheer horror of your other options makes this living tomb seem like a promotion. You are not running towards God. You are running away from everything else. This isn't about faith. It's about fear. You are choosing the quiet, predictable terror of the known over the loud, chaotic terror of the unknown. And so, you wait for the day they will come and bury you alive, and you try to convince yourself that this is not a funeral, but a graduation. The day of your entombment arrives, and it's a disturbingly festive affair. The whole village turns out, dressed in their least stained tunics. It's better than the annual fair, because the main attraction is you, and the stakes are infinitely higher. You are led in a solemn procession to the church, the priest at the front, swinging a censer that fills the air with the cloying scent of incense, a smell you'll soon associate with every waking moment. You feel less like a holy woman and more like a prize-winning pig being paraded to the slaughter. Children point, adults whisper, their faces a greasy mix of awe and pity. They see a saint in the making. You see a crowd of people who've come to watch a woman be legally buried. You're the guest of honor at your own funeral, and the main course is your future. Once inside the church, the true absurdity begins. The ceremony is literally the office for the dead. You are instructed to lie down on a wooden bier in the center of the nave, and they cover you with a black funeral pall. It smells of dust and the faint, unsettling scent of previous occupants. The priest begins to chant the Latin rites for the deceased. It's a surreal experience, listening to prayers for your own departed soul while you're very much alive and acutely aware of an itch developing in the middle of your back that you absolutely cannot scratch. This is the ultimate in gaslighting. Don't mind us, the whole ritual seems to say. We're just declaring you dead to the world. Try not to fidget. The bishop, who has returned for the grand finale, launches into a sermon. He praises your courage, your devotion, your magnificent sacrifice. He paints you as a spiritual warrior, a bulwark against the forces of darkness. You lie there under the heavy cloth, listening to this glowing review of your strategic retreat from reality, and you have to suppress a laugh that borders on a scream. He's talking about a fictional character, a holy heroine. He is not talking about you, the terrified young woman who chose this over a lifetime of drudgery and the high probability of dying in childbirth. But the crowd eats it up. They weep, they cross themselves, they feel spiritually uplifted by your manufactured sainthood. After the prayers are done, the pall is removed, and you are resurrected into your new life. The procession reforms and leads you from the church to the small stone cell built against its outer wall. Your new home, it's exactly as you feared, only smaller. The stone walls are cold and damp, leaching warmth from the air. The floor is bare earth, and the whole space smells of wet lime and finality. It features cutting-edge medieval amenities. Like a hole and a different hole, there are 3 openings, your only links to the world you've just left. The first is the squint, a small, narrow slit angled to give you a view of the high altar in the church. This is your spiritual television, permanently stuck on one channel, allowing you to observe Mass without being seen. The second opening faces the outside world, covered by a shutter. This is your customer service window, your drive-through portal. Through this, you will receive food, drink, and listen to the endless stream of villagers who will come seeking your prayers and advice. You will become their spiritual therapist, their divine search engine for lost keys and sick cows. The third, opening usually smaller and more discreet, is for your waste. Your integrated, gravity-powered plumbing system. It leads to a small pit. It's undignified, unpleasant, and something you'll have to manage for the next several decades. This is your kingdom, a 7 by 9 foot box of stone, piety, and poor sanitation. The priest shoves a prayer book into your hands, mutters a final blessing, and sprinkles the cell with holy water that feels shockingly cold on your skin. Then he steps back, and the real work begins. The masons, who have been waiting patiently with their tools, step forward. There's no dramatic speech now, no fanfare, just the quiet, methodical scrape of a trowel against stone. The first stone is laid. It blocks a sliver of the doorway, a sliver of the world. Then another. A wet, slapping sound of mortar being applied, and the dull thud of the next stone settling into place. The sound of the masons at work is the soundtrack to your life's closing credits. With each stone, the light from the outside world diminishes. It shrinks from a doorway to a window, from a window to a sliver, from a sliver to a pinprick. The faces of the crowd become a blurry, indistinct mural of gawking spectators. You see the bishop looking self-satisfied. You see your patron looking pious. You see your family, their faces a mixture of pride and sorrow. Are they proud of your holiness, or just relieved that you're no longer their financial burden? It's probably a bit of both. The air in the cell grows thick and still. The sounds from the outside become muffled, distant. The cheerful chatter of the villagers, the birds, the wind, it's all being filtered through a growing wall of stone. You can hear your own breathing now, loud and ragged in your ears. You can hear the frantic thumping of your heart, a panicked bird trapped in the cage of your ribs. A final stone is scraped into place, fitting snugly into the last gap, and then darkness. A profound, absolute blackness that feels heavy, like a physical weight against your eyelids. And silence. A silence so complete, it rings in your ears. The masons are done. They are packing up their tools. The crowd is dispersing, their morbid curiosity satisfied. They are heading back to their homes, their noisy children, their warm fires. They're already talking about what they'll have for dinner. Their day's entertainment is over. Your new life has just begun. Welcome to the rest of your life. Spoilers, the scenery doesn't change. You are alone. Utterly and completely alone in the dark. You are dead to the world. And as the panic begins to rise, a cold, sharp claw of terror gripping your throat, you have to wonder if, just maybe, you've made a terrible, irreversible mistake. The first few minutes, or maybe it's an hour, are a blur of pure, uncut panic. Time ceases to have meaning in the absolute dark. Your first instinct is to scream, a raw primal shriek that claws its way up your throat. You want to beat your fists against the fresh mortar, to claw at the stones until your fingers are bloody stumps, to undo this catastrophic mistake. But you don't, because a second, colder realization quickly smothers the first. It's pointless. Nobody is coming to let you out. There is no emergency release lever. You didn't just close a door, you deleted it. They listened to you being pronounced dead. They watched you being buried. Screaming now would be like a corpse complaining about the quality of its coffin. It's simply not done. So you swallow the scream, and it sits in your stomach like a hot coal. Your senses, deprived of light, go into overdrive. You are acutely aware of the rough texture of the stone walls, the cold damp of the earthen floor beneath your knees, the coarse weave of your robe against your skin. The silence is a physical presence. It's so profound that the sound of your own body becomes an orchestra of horrors. Your ragged breathing is a windstorm. The frantic, hammering beat of your heart is a war drum. The gurgling of your empty stomach is a monstrous creature sharing the cell with you. You've officially begun your new career as a professional sufferer. Eventually, the sheer exhaustion of terror wears you down, and you slump against a wall. There is no day or night, only the thick, suffocating blackness. You drift into a state that is neither sleep nor wakefulness, a gray limbo of fear. The first sign of morning is a faint change in the quality of the darkness. A single dusty shaft of gray light penetrates the squint, painting a pale, ghostly rectangle on the opposite wall. It's the saddest sunrise in the world. This is your clock now. Your life will be governed by this sliver of indirect light. With the light comes the rule book. Before you are enclosed, you are given your copy of the Anchoress, the guide for Anchoresses. It's the world's first and most depressing lifestyle manual. You fumble for it in the dim light. Its pages are your new boss, your new schedule, your new reality. Your daily schedule is meticulously laid out. 8 a.m., pray. 10 a.m., pray with more intensity. 12 p.m., contemplate your own sinfulness. 1 p.m., more prayer, this time for the souls of others, which feels generous given your current situation. This isn't about spiritual connection. It's about filling the terrifying void of the next 16 hours. It's a filibuster against madness. The prayers are long and repetitive, the Latin a meaningless drone you recite until your tongue is thick and your mind is numb. You try to focus on the words, on the holiness, but your brain keeps betraying you. It wanders off to remember the taste of a fresh apple, the warmth of the sun, the stupid face of your brother. These memories are now dangerous temptations, luxuries you cannot afford. The book even has advice on this. If you find your mind wandering, it suggests you should flagellate yourself or meditate on the torments of hell. It's the medieval equivalent of being told to focus on your work by the worst manager imaginable. The first meal arrives with a sudden, startling noise. The wooden shutter on your service window scrapes open, flooding the cell with a blinding slice of daylight. You flinch back, shielding your eyes. A wooden bowl and a cup are placed on the sill with a clatter. Then, just as quickly, the shutter slams closed, plunging you back into gloom. There are no pleasantries. Your food delivery is as impersonal as a package left on a doorstep. You crawl to the window and inspect your meal. A chunk of hard, dark bread that could double as a whetstone. A small piece of waxy, sour cheese. And a cup of thin, watery ale. It's fuel, nothing more. You eat slowly, mechanically, trying to make it last. The taste is secondary to the act of doing something. Anything other than praying or sitting in the dark. The loneliness is a different beast than you imagined. You thought you wanted to be alone, but this isn't solitude. It's erasure. You are a ghost in your own life. To keep the silence from crushing you, you start to talk to yourself. At first, it's whispers, finishing the lines of prayers. Then, you graduate to full conversations. You ask yourself how you are. You answer. You tell yourself jokes, and you're the only one who laughs. A hollow, dry sound that the stone walls swallow immediately. You give names to the spiders that are already beginning to spin their webs in the corners. They are your new neighbors. Your new confidants. A fat one near the ceiling is Eleanor. A small, skittering one is Thomas. You tell them about your day. They are excellent listeners. The line between pious contemplation and a complete mental breakdown is not a line. It's a hairline crack in the floor that you are already beginning to straddle. You're not just off the grid, you're under it. As the gray light from the squint begins to fade, signaling the end of your first official day, a new kind of dread sets in. The dread of the night. The day was a structured monotony. The night is a formless, timeless abyss of darkness and cold. The temperature in the cell plummets. A damp, penetrating cold seeps up from the floor, a cold that gets into your bones. And stays there? You curl into the tightest ball you can, wrapping your scratchy wool robe around you, but it does little to help. This is when the noises start. Or perhaps they were always there, but now the silence is deep enough to hear them. The scuttling of rats under the floorboards. The hoot of a distant owl, a sound of freedom that feels like a personal insult. The wind whistling through the cracks in the masonry, sounding like faint, mocking whispers. You lie on the floor, shivering, and listen to the world continuing on without you. You hear faint, muffled laughter from the direction of the village. Tavern. You hear a dog barking. You hear the church bell toll the hours, each chime a hammer blow, marking another moment of your life spent in this box. And you realize this is it. This is your life now. Yesterday, you were a person. Today, you are a function. Tomorrow, and the day after, and the day after that, for the next 30, 40, maybe 50 years, this will be it. The same cell, the same gray light, the same food, the same prayers, the same crushing loneliness. Congratulations, you've achieved inbox 0 for your soul, and it is absolutely terrifying. After the first few months of terror-induced adaptation, a strange and unsettling routine begins to form. The initial shock fades, replaced by a dull, persistent ache of existence. You are no longer the new, shocking spectacle. You are now a permanent fixture of the village, like the well or the ancient oak tree, only significantly more miserable. Your new job begins in earnest. You are the town's spiritual problem solver, a holy vending machine for blessings and advice. The shutter on your window becomes the portal to a parade of human misery and triviality. At first, you're hesitant. What advice could you possibly give? Your entire world is a 10 by 10 stone box. You haven't felt rain or sunshine in ages. Your most exciting recent event was discovering a spider had laid eggs. Yet they come to you. A farmer, his face creased with worry, kneels at your window. "Holy Mother," he whispers, "the rains haven't come. My crops are failing. Should I plant? The lower field?" You, who haven't seen a field since your enclosure, whose knowledge of agriculture is now purely theoretical, are expected to provide divine meteorological and agricultural counsel. You give the only answer you have, a generic platitude about faith and a command to pray. You've become a spiritual Amazon Alexa, except your only answer to every query is, pray harder, and have you tried donating to the church? A woman comes next, convinced her neighbor has given her the evil eye, causing her milk to curdle. You are now a paranormal investigator and a mediator in supernatural domestic disputes. You listen to her frantic, whispered accusations and, through your little window, you become the most powerful and informed person in the community. You are the central repository for all gossip. You're the medieval equivalent of a gossip columnist who never leaves their apartment. You know that Thomas the baker is cheating his customers by mixing sawdust in his flour. You know Lady Eleanor is secretly meeting the stable boy. You know every feud, every secret, every petty crime. They confess their sins and their neighbors' sins to you, and this information becomes your only currency, your only connection to the human world you've left behind. It's a strange, disembodied power. You are a spy master whose only weapon is piety. While your spiritual influence grows, your physical body begins its slow, inevitable decay. You are an expert on the human soul, but your own vessel is falling apart. Your muscles, unused to any real exertion beyond kneeling, begin to atrophy. Your legs grow weak and unsteady. Walking the few paces across your cell can leave you breathless. Your body has entered a permanent state of power-saving mode. Your skin, shielded from the sun, becomes a pale, almost translucent white, the blue veins visible beneath like a roadmap of your own decline. Your eyes, now fully accustomed to the perpetual twilight of your cell, become exquisitely sensitive. The sudden opening of the food shutter is a blast of physical pain, a searing white light. It sends you recoiling into the shadows like a creature of the night. And then there is the matter of hygiene. The Anchoress is very clear on this. Excessive washing is a form of vanity, a temptation of the flesh. You are encouraged to be dirty. Apparently, being holy meant smelling like you'd been camping. For 6 months straight, with no access to a river. The dampness of the cell is constant. Mildew grows in the corners. The proximity to your own waste pit is an ever-present reality. You are perpetually cold, perpetually damp, and perpetually surrounded by the faint, sour smell of your own unwashed existence. You are a living saint, but you are also a petri dish for every ailment bred by filth and confinement. The psychological toll is even more profound. The coping mechanisms that got you through the first few weeks are now permanent features of your personality. Your conversations with your spider roommates, Eleanor and Thomas, are no longer a sign of encroaching madness. They are your social life. You debate theology with them. You tell them the latest gossip from the window. The line between reality and hallucination becomes hopelessly blurred. In the dead of night, you hear whispers. Is it just the wind, as the rational part of your brain insists? Or is it demons trying to tempt you, just as your rulebook warns? Last week, you had a vision after a day of particularly enthusiastic fasting. You saw an angel, bathed in light, who told you to pray for the soul of the king. Was it a divine message? Or was it the predictable result of malnutrition combined with extreme sensory deprivation? You're not sure if you're having a divine revelation or if the bread from yesterday was just a bit moldy. You are simultaneously becoming holier and more unhinged. To the village, your strange trances, your whispered conversations with unseen things, your wild-eyed pronouncements are all signs of your closeness to God. They don't see a woman slowly losing her mind in a box. They see a conduit to the divine. Your insanity is interpreted as sanctity. And perhaps, in a way, they're right. You have sacrificed your mind, your body, your connection to the physical world. You have become something other than human. You are a symbol, a story they tell their children. The girl who died to the world to become a friend of God. They have no idea that, in the suffocating darkness of your cell, you sometimes forget your own name, and that the thing you pray for most fervently is not salvation or grace or peace for mankind, but simply for the memory of what it felt like to stand in the rain. The days bleed into weeks, the weeks into months, the months into years, and the years into a long, gray, seamless smear of time. You don't measure your life in seasons or holidays anymore. You measure it in priests. You're on your third. One now. The first, a stern man with a wheezing laugh, died of a winter fever 10 years in. The second, a young, earnest boy, was taken by the sweating sickness. The current one is a weary, middle-aged man who looks at you with a mixture of professional reverence and genuine fear. You are a feature of the church he inherited, a living testament to a time he barely remembers. You've been in this box for 20 years, or is it 30? You've lost count. You track the world by the servant who brings your food. She was a giggling girl when you were first enclosed, a child who looked at you with wide, curious eyes. Now she is a grandmother, her face a roadmap of wrinkles and grief, her movements slow and pained. She tells you about her grandchildren, children who were born, grew up, and are now having children of their own, all while you have sat in this cell unchanged. You have become a constant, a human landmark. You are the Anchoress, the girl you were before, the one who loved the smell of hay and feared her father's temper, is a ghost. Her memories are like a story someone told you once, faded and distorted. You tried to conjure her face in your mind, your own face from another lifetime, and you can't. You see only a vague outline, a stranger. Your memories of the outside world are like low-resolution images downloaded over a terrible internet connection, pixelated and incomplete. You are the human equivalent of a message in a bottle, except the bottle is a tomb, and the message is just a very, very long scream. Then the world outside decides to end. You hear the first whispers of it at your window. A new pestilence from the east. It travels fast. People are dying. At first, it's a distant horror, another story of misery from a world you're no longer part of. But then it arrives in your village. The tone of the consultations at your window changes from petty grievances to raw, undiluted terror. It's no longer about lost chickens or cheating merchants. Now it's about a husband who went to bed healthy and was dead by morning, covered in black boils. It's a mother weeping, asking for prayers for her children who are all burning with fever. The church bell, which once marked the placid hours of your day, now tolls constantly for the dead. It's a rhythmic, unending soundtrack to the apocalypse. You are safe, of course. Your quarantine, once a spiritual statement, has become the most effective medical precaution imaginable. No one comes close. They leave your food at the far edge of the sill and run. The gossip stops. The confessions stop. All you get are frantic, pleas for intercession, the desperate cries of the dying. You sit in your stone box and listen as the world you knew is systematically unmade. The servant, your lifelong link to the world, stops coming. You wait for 2 days, your hunger a sharp, familiar pain. On the third day, a young boy, his face masked with a cloth and streaked with tears, shoves a loaf of bread through the shutter and tells you his grandmother is dead, the priest is dead, the lord of the manor is dead, half the village is dead. You didn't just survive the plague. You had a front row seat to the apocalypse from a stone skybox. When it's finally over, months later, you are no longer just a holy woman. You are a miracle, a relic. You survived God's wrath. To the handful of traumatized survivors, you are proof that God has not abandoned them entirely. Your status is elevated to something you can't even comprehend. But in the dark, you are haunted. Why you? You, who chose a living death, were spared from the real one. You sit with the names of the dead, a litany of ghosts. The grumpy baker, the gossiping weaver, the young mother, the old priest. They are all gone. You are still here. The guilt is a physical weight, heavier than the stone walls. Your body is a testament to your long confinement. You are old, far older than your years. A constant, damp ache has settled deep in your bones. Your joints are stiff and swollen with arthritis. Your teeth are loose. Your eyesight has failed. In the gloom, and the world beyond your squint, is a blurry, indistinct soup of light and shadow. You are a prisoner in your own decaying body, which has become a cell within your cell. Your mind, however, has built its own world. The line between the natural and supernatural, between memory and hallucination, has been completely erased. Your internal world has become a sprawling cinematic universe, and the casting is eclectic. Saints Peter and Paul visit you for long, rambling chats in the afternoon. Demons, no longer terrifying, are now just nuisances, like cosmic flies you have to bat away. Your long-dead mother sits with you in the evenings, humming tunes you'd long forgotten. These aren't visions anymore. They are your reality. They are more real than the terrified, hollowed-out faces that appear at your window. You are a queen in a kingdom of shadows, the sole inhabitant of a world built from prayer, starvation, and 30 years of unending loneliness. You have outlived everyone you ever knew. You have become the story, the Anchoress who spoke to angels and survived the plague. And as you sit there, your body broken and your mind a kaleidoscope of ghosts and gods, you are not sure if you are a saint or just the last one left to turn out the lights. Decades have now passed. The world has ended and been reborn multiple times, but your world, the 10 by 10 world of stone and shadow, has remained ruthlessly the same. You are no longer just an Anchoress. You are an ancient monument, a living myth. The children who were born in the shadow of the Black Death are now the village elders, and they speak of you in hushed, reverent tones. They can't imagine the church without you, the living saint sealed in its side. You are older than their oldest memory. Your own memories have become a strange, unreliable tapestry. You remember the Great Plague not as a single event, but as a long, dark season of the church, bell tolling without end. You remember the wars that followed, not by the names of kings or battles, but by the frantic prayers of soldiers at your window and the weeping of the widows who came after. You are a historian who has experienced none of it, a chronicler of a world you only hear and smell. Your body is a cage of pain. The damp cold of the stone has become a permanent part of you, a deep, grinding ache in your joints that never subsides. You are half-blind, your eyes so accustomed to the gloom that the sliver of light from the squint is a dull, meaningless glow. Your teeth are gone, and your food, still the same coarse bread and thin ale, has to be softened in water for you to be able to eat it. You are a ruin, a fragile collection of bones and failing organs, kept alive by habit and the fearful piety of the villagers. Your relationship with God has changed. The passionate, desperate prayers of your youth have been worn smooth by time, like a stone in a river. Your prayers are no longer pleas or bargains. They are conversations with an old, familiar roommate. The lines are blurred. Sometimes you are talking to God, sometimes to St. Catherine, sometimes to Eleanor, the long-dead matriarch of the Spider dynasty in the corner. It all flows into one constant, rambling monologue that fills the silence. Your internal world is now infinitely more real and vivid than the outside one. You can conjure the scent of your mother's baking with more clarity than the smell of the incense from the church. Your visions are no longer frightening or ecstatic. They are simply company. You have become so detached from the physical world that you barely notice its inputs anymore. The food arrives. You eat it. The prayers are scheduled. You say them. Your life has been reduced to a series of biological and spiritual functions, a rhythm so ingrained that it requires no thought at all. A new priest has arrived in the village. This is the fifth, or maybe the sixth. He is young, educated, and filled with the new ideas that are sweeping the church. He is a man of books and logic, and he is deeply unsettled by you. The old priests saw you as a source of holy power, a direct line to heaven. This new one sees you as a relic of a superstitious, barbaric past. He performs his duties, ensuring you are fed, but he does it with a cold, formal distance. He doesn't believe in living saints. He believes in order and doctrine. He sees you not as a miracle, but as a problem. A messy, unhygienic, and theologically awkward problem left over from a previous, more credulous age. The villagers, however, cling to you. Their faith is older and more primal than the priest's books. They see the priest as a temporary administrator, but you are the soul of the place. They bring you their troubles, their fears, their hopes. They tell you about the changing world. They speak of new inventions, new wars, a new kind of wealth that is transforming the land. It's all meaningless noise to you. What is a printing press to a woman who has read only one book for 50 years? What is a cannon to a woman whose entire world is impervious to any earthly assault? You are a fixed point in a world that is spinning faster and faster. You are a creature of the 14th century, miraculously preserved in the stone and ignorance of your cell, while the 15th century rages on outside. One day, the young boy who brings your food, the great-grandson of the first girl you remember hesitantly, tells you they are renovating the church, putting in new, larger windows to let in more light. The new priest wants to make the space more modern, more welcoming. He doesn't say it, but you understand. They are renovating your world. For weeks, your quiet existence is shattered by the sounds of construction, the rhythmic chipping of masons, the shouting of workers, the crash of falling stone. It is a violent intrusion, a reminder of the world's relentless ability to change, to tear down and rebuild. The noise is a physical assault, and for the first time in decades, you feel a flicker of the old panic. The fear of being buried, the terror of the walls. It's a distant echo, a ghost of a feeling, but it's there. You have become so accustomed to the unchanging silence that this new reality is a kind of torture. You are the past, and the future is beating on your door with a hammer. The renovation of the church finishes. A new, brighter, and more modern window has been installed, and the light that now filters through your squint is different. It's sharper, clearer, and feels like an unwelcome intruder in your twilight world. It illuminates the dust motes dancing in the air, each one a tiny world you can no longer comprehend. The construction noise fades, replaced by a new, unnerving silence. Your body, that faithful prison, is finally filing for bankruptcy. The energy required to lift the wooden cup to your lips is monumental. The litanies of prayer, once an automatic drone, now falter on your tongue. Your mind has untethered itself completely from the anchor hold. You no longer wait for visions. You simply reside within them. The stone walls melt away into the sun-drenched field of your childhood. The stench of decay is replaced by the phantom scent of wildflowers. Your long-dead family is with you, their voices clearer than the shuffling feet of the priest in the church. Your death, when it comes, is not a grand, holy event. There is no choir of angels, no final, profound revelation. It is a quiet system shutdown. Lying on the cold floor, in your last moment of consciousness, you are not thinking of heaven or hell or the salvation of your soul. A single stubborn memory surfaces, pushing past 60 years of prayer and darkness. It is the memory of being 6 years old, sitting on a wooden fence and biting into a stolen pear, the juice running down your chin. The sweetness of it, the warmth of the sun on your face. That is it. That is the final thought. A tiny, insignificant, perfect moment of sensory joy. And then, nothing. The next day, the food is left untouched. The day after, the second meal joins the first, the bread already going stale. The servant boy, terrified of the unprecedented break in a 60-year routine, alerts the priest. The young, logical priest is irritated. This is precisely the kind of messy, superstitious business he despises. He calls for you through the shutter. He bangs on the wooden lid. The only answer is silence. With the whole village gathered, their faces pale with a mixture of fear and morbid excitement, the priest makes a decision. He orders the masons to open the cell. They had to literally break down the wall of your life to file the final report. The work is slow. The mortar, hardened over decades, is tougher than new stone. The villagers watch, whispering prayers, as the masons chip away at the wall that has been a sacred boundary for longer than any of them have been alive. Finally, the last stone is removed. A wave of foul, stale air, the concentrated stench of 60 years of unwashed life and death, billows out, making the masons recoil and the crowd gasp. The priest, holding a cloth over his face, peers into the darkness. What he finds is not a saint in serene repose. He finds the grim reality. He finds you, a tiny skeletal figure, curled in on itself on the floor. Your body is little more than bones held together by leathery, paper-thin skin. Your robe has practically disintegrated, and the cell is a scene of unimaginable squalor. The earthen floor is packed down and filthy, the corners thick with the webs of countless generations of spiders. It is not the pristine chamber of a holy woman. It is a hovel, a nest, the grim testament to a life of profound and isolated misery. The priest is shaken, his modern sensibilities horrified by the raw medieval truth of it all. But the villagers see something else entirely. They do not see the filth or the decay. They see the physical proof of your immense suffering. They see the emaciated form as evidence of your fasting, the squalor as a sign of your rejection of worldly things. Your broken body is the ultimate relic. Your suffering is their proof of God's favor. And so, the final great irony of your life begins. The reality of your existence was too grim for the official biography, so they gave you the full public relations treatment. Your bones are carefully gathered, cleaned, and placed in a jewel-encrusted box, a reliquary to be put on display by the main altar. The young priest, seeing the immense power of your story, writes the official account. He conveniently leaves. Out the decades of madness, the filth, the overwhelming stench of despair. In his version, you are a serene and beautiful saint who spent her days in blissful conversation with angels. Your horrifying life is retold as a peaceful, romantic fairy tale. Your strategic retreat from a terrible life, your 60 years sentence, in a solitary confinement born of desperation, is rebranded as a noble choice of supreme piety. Your story becomes a tool, a sermon, a way to inspire awe and encourage donations. Congratulations, you've been canonized. Your suffering is now officially inspirational. And the girl who just wanted a room of her own, the girl whose last thought was of a stolen pair, is completely and utterly erased, buried forever under the weight of the saint they built upon her bones. So the Anchoress had it bad, no question. A life of quiet, holy, soul-crushing despair. But at least her cell was, in theory, free of other people's problems. And other people's, well, everything else. You, on the other hand, have won an entirely different kind of lottery. Welcome to Tudor London, the shining jewel of England. You've seen the portraits of the royals, the fine silks, the magnificent palaces. That is not your London. Your London is a labyrinth of narrow, leaning timber houses, perpetually shrouded in a fog of coal smoke and human breath. The streets below are a thick, primordial soup of mud, rotting garbage, discarded animal entrails from the butcher shops, and the constant, generous contributions of the city's horses and citizens. The air doesn't just smell, it has a physical weight. It's a rich, complex bouquet of disease and decay that clings to the back of your throat. And in this thriving metropolis, you have just landed a prestigious and highly sought-after career. You are a gong farmer. It sounds almost pastoral, doesn't it? Gong farmer. As if you cultivate musical instruments in a field. The reality is somewhat less melodic. Gong is the old word for a privy, a toilet, a jakes. And your farm is the city's collective cesspits. Your job, your noble calling, is to manually empty the public and private toilets of London. You are, to put it in modern terms, a sanitation engineer, except your only engineering tool is a shovel, and your protective gear is a healthy dose of fatalism. This isn't a job you chose. It's a destiny you inherited, like a cursed family heirloom. Your father was a gong farmer, and his father before him. They both died young, of course, from what was vaguely called the fever, which was a polite term for any one of the 50 horrific diseases one contracts from living neck-deep in human. filth. But the tools and the title were passed down to you, because someone has to do it. The city would literally drown in its own waste otherwise. There are, believe it or not, some perks to the job. The first is the pay. You earn more in a single night than a skilled laborer makes in a week. This is the universal law of hazardous materials. The fouler the work, the finer the fee. The city's wealthy merchants will pay a handsome sum to have their overflowing pits of despair discreetly emptied. The catch, of course, is surviving long enough to spend your earnings on something other than gin and questionable medicine. The second perk is the hours. You are a creature of the night. By law, you are only permitted to work between the hours of 9 p.m. and 5 a.m. This is not for your convenience. It's because the sight, and more importantly, the smell of your work is so profoundly offensive that doing it in daylight would cause riots, fainting spells, and mass vomiting. So you sleep while the city bustles, and you work while it sleeps, moving through the darkened streets like a foul-smelling ghost. This nocturnal schedule makes you an outcast. You are a necessary evil, a walking, talking embodiment of the city's most private and disgusting functions. During the day, people cross the street to avoid you. Children hold their noses and point. You are never invited to parties. Your social life consists of conversations with other night dwellers, the city. Watch, drunks, and the rats, who are your primary competition. Your toolkit is simple, artisanal, and horrifying. It consists of a couple of large, sturdy buckets, a long rope, a lantern, and your two most important tools, a shovel and a tuller. The tuller is a small cart or wagon with a sealed cask. On it, which you will use to transport your ... harvest. You and your small team, usually two other poor souls you've managed to hire for the night, are about to embark on your first official job as the crew leader. A wealthy cloth merchant in Cheapside has a privy that has not been emptied in 3 years. 3 years. He has complained to the alderman that the smell is beginning to impede upon the pleasantries of his dinner parties. You spend the evening in quiet dread. The preparation is a ritual. You put on your work clothes, which are essentially just your worst clothes, a set of rags you will never be able to fully clean. The stench will embed itself in the very fibers of the cloth, a permanent olfactory tattoo. You eat a small meal because working on a full stomach is a rookie mistake in this line of business. As dusk settles, you and your crew, a lanky, pockmarked man named Taunus, and a grizzled old veteran called Jack, who has somehow survived this job for 10 years, load the tuller and begin your journey. The streets of London at night are a different kind of dangerous. The darkness hides the filth, but you can still feel it, slick and treacherous under your worn leather boots. The lantern casts dancing, monstrous shadows on the walls of the leaning houses. Every dark alleyway could hide a thief or a murderer, but tonight you are not worried about them. They should be worried about you. You are heading toward a monster, far more terrifying than any common criminal. You are on your way to do battle with a 3-year-old mountain of human waste. You arrive at the merchant's house, a grand 3-story timber building that looms over the narrow street. The merchant himself, a fat man in a fur-trimmed robe, greets you at the back door, holding a perfumed handkerchief to his nose. He points towards a small shed in his back garden, the privy. "Be swift and silent," he says, wrinkling his nose in your general direction. I will pay upon completion. He tosses you a coin as a down payment and scurries back inside, slamming the door shut, leaving you and your men alone in the dark with your destiny. Jack, the veteran, spits on the ground. Right then, he grunts, picking up the shovel. Let's meet the beast. You and your crew stand before the small wooden shed, the privy, for a long moment. It looks so harmless, so quaint. But you know that the shed is just a polite wooden hat sitting on top of a monster. The real work lies beneath the floorboards. Jack, the veteran, lights the lantern, its yellow flame pushing back the oppressive darkness of the merchant's garden. He hands it to you. Right then, boss, he says, his voice a low rumble. Rule number 1, always breathe through your mouth. Rule number 2, try not to think about what you're breathing. Thomas, the lanky one, just swallows hard, his prominent Adam's apple bobbing in the flickering light. You take a deep breath of the relatively fresh night air, knowing it's the last clean breath you'll have for hours. You and Thomas grab crowbars and set to work on the floorboards of the privy. They groan in protest, the nails screeching as they're pulled from the damp wood. With a final splintering crack, you pull the last section of the floor away, revealing the gaping, black maw of the cesspit. The helmeth. For a second, there is nothing. A pocket of silence, and then it hits you. The smell. It doesn't creep. Up on you, it explodes out of the pit with the force of a physical blow. You've just uncorked a bottle of pure, concentrated history, and it is furious. It's a complex, multi-layered entity. The top note is the sharp, eye-watering sting of ammonia, the ghost of 10,000 gallons of urine. Beneath that is the deep, earthy, foundational stench of rot and decay. And woven through it all is a strangely sweet, cloying odor of putrefaction, the smell of life breaking down into its most basic, most offensive components. It's a smell that has texture. It coats your tongue, it stings your eyes, and it feels like it's soaking directly into your skin. You see Thomas stumble back, gagging, his hand clamped over his mouth. Jack just stands there, his face impassive. He's either a master of self-control, or he lost his sense of smell back in the reign of the last king. You fight down the reflexive urge to vomit, forcing yourself to take a shallow, disgusting breath through your mouth. Now for the second wave of horror, the view. You hold the lantern over the opening. The pit is about 10 feet deep, and it is nearly full. It's not a liquid, not really. It's a semi-solid, heaving mountain of filth. A thick, dark, bubbling landscape that seems in the flickering light to be alive. You can see the stratigraphy of the past 3 years. Layers of different shades of brown and black, like a geological survey of misery. And within this obscene tapestry, you can spot the occasional artifact. A glint of something metal lost. Button, maybe a coin. The sodden, misshapen form of what might have been a leather shoe. This isn't just waste. It's a time capsule. A disgusting, horrifying time capsule that you have to personally excavate. Right, Jack says, breaking the stunned silence. No sense admiring the view. It ain't getting any prettier. He gestures to Thomas. New boy's turn for a dip. Thomas looks like he's about to faint. This is the moment that separates the men. From the boys, the gong farmers, from the people who wisely choose any other profession. You have to lower someone down into that. The unluckiest astronaut in the world, exploring an inner space nobody ever wanted mapped. The person in the pit, the nightman, has the job of shoveling the sludge into the buckets. The two on top, the ropers, haul them up. It's a disgusting three-man symphony of filth. Thomas, pale and trembling, allows Jack to tie the thick rope around his waist. He looks at you with pleading eyes, but there's no other way. You're the boss, but you're not above the work. You'll take your turn in the pit, but the new man always goes first. It's tradition. It's a hazing ritual. You and Jack lower him down. His boots touch the surface of the sludge with a sound like a wet kiss. Then he sinks, up to his knees, then his waist. The warm, thick mass of the pit sucks at him, trying to claim him. He lets out a choked gasp as the sheer, suffocating reality of his situation envelops him. The warmth of 3 years of compacted, decomposing human life is an unspeakable intimacy. You pass him down a shovel and a bucket. He begins to work, his movements stiff and clumsy with terror. The sound is nauseating. The wet, sucking slap of the shovel digging into the mass. The thick, heavy slosh as he dumps a load into the bucket. "Full," he chokes out, his voice thin and reedy. You and Jack grab the rope and begin to haul. The bucket is incredibly heavy, and the rope is slick with, well, you know. You pull, hand over hand, your muscles straining, until the bucket clears the opening. You swing it over to the tuller cart and empty it. A wave of concentrated stench washes over you as the contents slide into the cask. This is one bucket. The pit holds hundreds. And so the rhythm begins. Shovel, slosh, full, haul, empty, repeat. Over and over. The night drags on, marked only by the filling of the cask. You and your crew talk much. The only sounds are the grunts of exertion, the creak of the rope, and the constant wet soundtrack from the pit. You have to disconnect your mind. You focus on the rope in your hands, the strain in your back. You think about the coins you'll earn. You think about the ale you'll drink when this is all over. You think about anything other than the fact that you are spending your night hauling buckets of human excrement out of a hole, while a terrified man stands waist-deep in it just a few feet below you. This is your life, your career, your family legacy. And as you lean over to empty another bucket, the stench hits you again, a fresh wave of horror, and you can't help but think the anchoress in her stone box never had to deal with this. Several hours into the night, a strange and terrible thing happens. You start getting used to it. The initial violent assault of the smell has subsided into a constant, oppressive background noise for your sinuses. It's no longer an event. It's the atmosphere. You've reached the point of sensory burnout where your brain, in a desperate act of self-preservation, has decided this is just what the world smells like now. This is your workplace cologne. The work has fallen into a grueling, hypnotic rhythm. Thomas, now covered in a slick, dark sheen of filth, sends up bucket after bucket. You and Jack, working like a well-oiled, albeit poorly scented machine, haul it up and dump it into the tuller. The cask is now more than half full, its weight making the small cart groan in protest. It's on one of these trips, as you tip a bucket into the cask, that something catches the lantern light. A metallic clatter, distinct from the wet slosh. Of the contents, you pause, peering into the cart. There, nestled in the obscene muck, is a silver locket. It's tarnished and fouled, but the delicate floral engraving on its surface is still visible. This is no common trinket. This is something of value, something someone would have missed. You fish it out with the end of your shovel, cleaning it as best you can on a relatively clean patch of your rags. Jack leans over. "Well now," he grunts. "That's a pretty thing to find in such an ugly place." Thomas, his head just visible over the edge of the pit, looks up. "How'd that get there?" The three of you are momentarily distracted, your minds turning. From the physical horror of your work to the small, sordid mystery in your hands. A secret gift from a lover, tossed away in a moment of panic or anger? A trophy from a late-night robbery, discarded by a thief? You're not just sanitation workers. You are archaeologists of the city's secret shamus. Finding this locket is like working in the world's worst evidence locker. After a few minutes, Jack claps his hands together. "Right, enough gawking. It's yours, boss. Finder's fee. Now let's get Thomas out of there before he takes root." You haul a shivering, exhausted Thomas out of the pit. He collapses on the ground, a wretched, stinking heap. Now it's your turn. The boss always takes a shift. It's your responsibility, your burden. You check the knot on the rope around your waist, take the lantern from Jack, and begin your descent. It's like being an astronaut on a mission into the abyss, if the abyss was made entirely of human regret. The journey down is short but terrifying. The walls of the pit are slicked with a greenish-black slime that seems to writhe in the lantern light. Then your boots touch the surface. The warmth is the most shocking part. It's the gentle, welcoming heat generated by the furious microscopic life's work of decomposition. It's the cheerful warmth of large-scale bacterial homicide. You sink into the mass, the thick, viscous sludge closing around your legs, creating a pressure that is both supportive and suffocating. You are now truly one with your work. The view from the bottom is surreal. You are in a cylinder of stone, looking up at a small circle of night sky, your two crewmates' faces peering down at you like concerned, grimy angels. The world is reduced to this single, stinking column. You take your first shovelful. The material is heavy, dense, and stubbornly resistant. It's not like digging soil. It's like trying to shovel wet cement mixed with rotten straw. Each bucket feels like it's filled with lead. Your arms burn, your back screams, but you keep working, finding the same monotonous rhythm that sustained you from above. You dig deeper, hitting a more compacted layer. As your shovel breaks through, there is a soft hiss. A bubble of gas, trapped for months, escapes and bursts near your face. The air, already foul, becomes unbreathable. Your head spins, your vision tunnels, and the lantern flame gutters, turning a sickly blue for a moment. Foul damp. Jack yells from above, his voice sharp with alarm. Methane. The pit is breathing, and it's trying to kill you. You stumble back, gasping, your lungs burning. Congratulations. The toilet is now actively trying to assassinate you. You press your face against the cold, slimy stone of the wall, trying to find a pocket of air that hasn't been poisoned. The dizziness slowly subsides, your heart hammering against your ribs. This job isn't just about disgust and disease. It's about sudden, unpredictable death. These pits could swallow you, poison you, or even explode if a flame hit it big enough. Gas pocket. You are working inside a gigantic organic bomb. The fear cuts through the exhaustion, sharpening your senses. You are no longer just a worker. You are a survivor. You take a moment, your breath still ragged, and look down at the shovel in your hand. The silver locket is in your pocket, a cold weight against your leg. This pit contains not just waste, but secrets, wealth, and death, all churned together. And you are standing right in the middle of it, a king in a kingdom of filth, digging for gold in a mountain of despair. You take another shaky breath and dig your shovel back in. The cask isn't full yet, and the sun won't be up for hours. The sky in the east is beginning to blush with the first faint hint of dawn. It's a sight that would be beautiful to anyone else. To you, it's a deadline. It's the final bell, signaling that your time in the shadows is over. The pit is finally empty, scraped clean down to the damp, stained stone at the bottom. You, Thomas, and Jack are specters of filth, creatures sculpted from mud and misery. The exhaustion is a physical weight, a fourth member of the crew. You are so tired you can barely feel the grime caked on your skin or the dull ache in your every muscle. All that's left is the final, humiliating act of getting paid. You knock on the merchant's back door. After a long delay, he appears, not even bothering to open the door fully. He peers through the crack, his face a mask of disgust, his ever-present perfumed handkerchief pressed to his nose. He doesn't look at the pit you've just spent your entire night emptying. He doesn't acknowledge your humanity. He just wants you gone. Is it done? He clips out. You nod, too tired to speak. A small, heavy pouch is tossed through the crack, landing with a soft thud in the mud near your feet. Now be gone, and use the main street. I don't want that. Cart tainting the alleyway. The door slams shut. The deal is done. It feels less like a payment for services rendered, and more like hush money for a crime you both participated in. You pick up the pouch, the weight of the coins a small, cold comfort. Now for the victory lap from hell. You have to haul the tuller, now laden with the entire contents of the merchant's cesspit, across a waking London. You are piloting the world's first and worst tanker truck, and your cargo is a biohazard of biblical proportions. As you trundle out of the merchant's garden and onto the main thoroughfare of Cheapside, the city is stirring. The first loaves of bread are being pulled from ovens, filling the air with a scent that feels like a cruel joke to your filth-clogged senses. Apprentices are taking down the shutters from shop windows. Pious old women are making their way to morning prayers. And then there is you, a moving island of pure horror. Your journey through the morning streets is a reverse parade, where people throw insults instead of candy. The reaction is instantaneous. A wave of disgust parts the street before you. A baker, his face white with flour and fury, shouts at you from his doorway. A group of young women, carrying baskets of laundry, gasp, cover their faces with their aprons, and practically run into a wall to get away from you. You are a social leper, and your cart is your bell, warning everyone of your unclean presence. The physical challenge is immense. The tuller is heavy and unwieldy, and the streets are a treacherous obstacle course of cobblestones, potholes, and yet more filth. With every lurch and jolt, the contents of the cask slosh violently, threatening to breach their containment. A single tipped cart would be a catastrophe, an eruption of private shame made spectacularly public. You and your crew navigate this gauntlet with the grim focus of soldiers moving through a minefield. Your destination is the official dumping ground, a designated laystel on the banks of the Thames, just outside the city walls. It's a place no one goes unless they have to. As you approach Ludgate, one of the main exits from the city, you see them. Two members of the city watch, leaning against the gate, looking bored. They see you coming, and their boredom instantly vanishes, replaced by the predatory gleam of opportunity. They step out, blocking your path. "Hold there, gong farmer," one of them says, a man with a beefy face and a network of broken veins on his nose. "That's a full cart. You're cutting it fine with the sunrise." This is a shakedown, pure and simple. He knows you're desperate to. Finish your work before the sun is fully up, before you're liable for a hefty fine. He knows you're exhausted and want to avoid trouble. You're a mobile environmental hazard with a deadline, and he's the regulator with an open palm. You sigh, the sound barely audible over the hum of the waking city. You reach into your pouch and produce a coin. Not too much, not too little. It's a delicate negotiation. You offer it to him. He looks at the coin, then at you, then at the foul-smelling cart. He snatches it from your hand. "See that you're quick about it," he grunts, stepping aside. "You're stinking up the King's Highway." You pass through the gate, the quiet fury of the injustice a hot coal in your gut. Finally, you arrive. The Laystel. It is a vision of hell. A vast muddy field that slopes down to the river, pockmarked with heaps and pools of every kind of waste imaginable. The air is thick with gulls and flies, and the smell is so overpowering it makes the merchant's pit seem like a floral garden. This is the city's subconscious, the final resting place of every bad decision and poorly digested meal in London. You maneuver the tuller to the edge of a great dark pool of sludge. This is it, the final act. With a shared grunt of effort, you, Jack, and Thomas unlatch the cask and tip it over. With a great, roaring torrent, the contents pour out, a brown, sludgy waterfall that joins the landscape of filth. The feeling is one of profound, almost spiritual relief. Your burden is released. The job is done. You stand there for a moment, watching the river of waste you've created slowly spread and settle. Then, without a word, you turn your empty, blessedly lighter cart around and head back into the city, leaving the monument to your night's work behind you. By the time you and your empty cart arrive back at the squalid little yard that serves as your home and office, London is in full swing. The cacophony of street vendors, church bells, hammering from workshops, and arguing neighbors is the soundtrack to your morning. For everyone else, the day is beginning. For you, it is ending. The first order of business is the impossible task of getting clean. There is no steaming hot shower, no antibacterial soap, no washing machine that can purge the sins of the night. There is a barrel of cold, slightly brackish water and a rough block of lye soap that scrapes your skin raw. You scrub and scrub, watching the water turn a sickening shade of brown, but you know it's a futile gesture. You can wash the visible filth from your skin, but you cannot wash away the smell. It has soaked into you. It is in your hair, under your fingernails, in the very pores of your skin. It is the ghost of your profession, and it haunts you relentlessly. You are, and always will be, fundamentally unclean. After the ritual of pointless washing, you collapse onto a stool in your Small hovel and attend to the only rewarding part of the job, counting the money. You empty the pouch from the merchant, along with the coin from the gate guard shakedown, and line up the shillings and pence on your rickety table. It's a good haul. More than enough for a week of fine food, good ale, and maybe even a new pair of boots. This is the great, tragic irony of your life. You have the financial means for a better existence, but you are barred from entry. Your money is like a VIP pass to a party where everyone leaves the moment you arrive. You decide to test this theory. You put on your best clothes, which still carry a faint, sour echo of your work, and walk to the local tavern. The moment you push open the door, the cheerful din of conversation falters. A dozen pairs of eyes fix on you. The tavern keeper's smile tightens. You walk to the bar, place a silver coin on the counter, and order a meat pie and a pint of their best ale. You are served quickly, efficiently, and silently. You take your meal to a corner table and eat alone. The space around you a self-clearing bubble of social isolation. Out of a strange, masochistic impulse, you offer to buy a round for the room. A few of the men, tempted by free ale, look at each other, but no one accepts. They would rather pay for their drink than be socially indebted to the likes of you. Your money is welcome, but you are not. Defeated, you return to your hovel and examine the other prize from the night, the silver locket. In the daylight, cleaned of its foul coating, it is even more beautiful. The engraving is masterful, a clasp still functional. It opens to reveal two miniature portraits, exquisitely painted, of a handsome nobleman and a woman who is clearly not his wife. This is not just a piece of jewelry. It's a scandal, a dangerous secret you literally dug up from the depths. It's a souvenir from a country you can never visit, called a normal life. Selling it is a risk. A pawnbroker would recognize its quality and ask questions. Being caught with such an item could lead to accusations of theft or worse. The locket is a heavy weight in your hand, a symbol of the wealth and intrigue of a world that you service, but can never join. The physical toll of the work is becoming more apparent each day. Your body's check engine light is permanently on. You have a persistent, hacking cough from the fumes, and the skin on your hands is a patchwork of sores and infections that refuse to heal. You look at Jack, your veteran crewmate, who at 40 has the stooped back and wheezing breath of a man twice his age. He is a walking preview of your own future. This job pays well, but you pay for it with your health, your dignity, and your years. You are trading your life for a living. Finally, you attempt to sleep. You bar the door to your hovel, trying to block out the sounds of the vibrant, sunlit world that has no place for you. You lie down on your straw-stuffed mattress, but sleep offers no escape. The moment you close your eyes, you are back in the darkness of the pit. You can feel the thick sludge closing around your legs. You can smell the suffocating stench of decay. You can hear the wet slap of the shovel. The work clings to your mind as stubbornly as it clings to your skin. You are a ghost haunting the daylight hours, waiting for the cover of darkness to become real again. As you finally drift into a fitful, shallow sleep, your last waking thought is of the locket. You wonder about the story of the two lovers, their secrets and their passions. And you wonder if, in their fine clothes and magnificent houses, they ever spare a single thought for the creatures of the night who deal with the consequences, who keep their world clean and their secrets buried. Years bleed into one another. each one marked by thousands of nights spent in the filth of others. You are no longer the young man who took over his father's cursed trade. You are the veteran now. You are Jack. Your back is a permanent arch of Vaji. Pain, your hands are gnarled claws, and your cough is a constant wheezing companion. The lanky, terrified Thomas from that first night is long gone, vanished into the city's vast anonymity of death and despair. You now hire your own Thomases, a rotating cast of desperate young men who last a few months before they run away or succumb to the fevers. You have become the grizzled old master of this disgusting art form, dispensing grim wisdom like a cursed fortune cookie. You've seen the city change, a new king on the throne, new buildings go up, but the filth remains. The filth is eternal. Then comes the year of the Great Plague. It begins as a whisper, a rumor from the docks, but soon it becomes a scream that engulfs the entire city. London, your London, transforms into a city-sized tomb. The wealthy flee. The poor are trapped, waiting for the Red Cross to be painted on their door. The air, once just thick with the normal stenches of life, is now sharpened with the sweet, sickly smell of mass death and the acrid smoke of purification fires that burn day and night. For you, the work doesn't stop. It becomes more essential and infinitely more dangerous. You are no longer just cleaning up waste. You are wading through the very essence of the pestilence. The cesspits of the sick and dying are biological weapons. And you are the disarmament crew. Working during the plague means your job has gone from being a public health hazard to a public health necessity, while simultaneously being a guaranteed way to die. Most other gong farmers have fled or already dead, but you remain. Because the money is better than ever, and because, after a lifetime of being an outcast, there is a strange, grim pride in being the only one willing to face the monster. You get a summons. A physician, one of the few who hasn't fled, needs. A block of tenements cleared. The houses are full of the dead and dying. The city is a giant sickbed, and you are its janitor. You and your new apprentice, a boy no older than 17 with fear in his eyes, wheel the tuller through streets that are eerily silent, save for the rumble of the death carts and the faint, constant cry of "Bring out your dead." You arrive. At the tenement, red crosses adorn nearly every door. You set to work on a large communal privy in the yard. The smell is different now. It's the familiar horror of the pit, but underneath it is the unmistakable, cloying sweetness of the plague. You and the boy work in grim silence, your faces covered with cloths soaked in vinegar, a useless ward against a disease you cannot see. It's your turn in the pit. As you are lowered down, you feel your age. Your muscles, once strong, now tremble with effort. Your lungs, ravaged by years of fumes, struggle for every breath. The pit is deep, and it is full of a new kind of terror. As you work, your mind drifts. You think of the silver locket, which you sold years ago for a pittance, too afraid to keep it. You think of the endless cycle of nights, the faces of the men who worked for you, the coins that passed through your filthy hands. It has been a long, strange, and terrible life. A wave of dizziness hits you, stronger than any foul damp you've ever felt before. Your vision blurs. Your strength leaves you in a sudden, catastrophic rush. Your body, after a lifetime of abuse, has finally submitted its resignation. You collapse. your head hitting the slimy stone wall, your body slumping down into the filth. You are not drowning, but you are sinking. The foulness you fought your entire life finally claiming you. From above, you hear the boys panicked. Shout, "Master? Master!" You try to answer, but your lungs will not obey. You are looking up at that small, familiar circle of sky, but it seems very far away now. The boy has a choice: to risk his own life trying to haul your dead weight out of a plague-filled pit, or to save himself. He is a good boy, but he is not. A fool. You hear the scrape of his boots as he backs away, and the sound of him running. You don't blame him. In this world, you save yourself, and then you are alone. One last time. In the dark. In the filth. Your final resting place is the one you spent your entire life trying to empty. Your death certificate, if anyone had bothered to write one, would simply be a tally mark on the week's plague deaths. You are another nameless victim. No one remembers. The gong farmer. There is no statue in your honor, no plaque bearing your name. Your only legacy is an invisible one. It's the slight delay of a future epidemic because a privy was emptied. It's the child who didn't get sick because the filth was hauled away. It's the silent, unthanked, and utterly vital work of pushing back against the tide of human waste. One bucket at a time. Your life was spent erasing the messes of others, and in the end, you too were simply and quietly erased. A final, foul testament to the forgotten souls who do the world's worst and most necessary jobs. You've now experienced the profound isolation of being walled away from the world and the gut-wrenching horror of dealing with its filthiest secrets. But what if you could combine the two? What if you could work in a place that is both a tomb and a toilet, a place of suffocating darkness and unspeakable contamination? Congratulations, you've discovered the exciting and almost certainly lethal career of a Victorian tosher. Welcome to London in the mid-19th century. The city is the roaring heart of the largest empire the world has ever known, a marvel of industry, progress, and unimaginable wealth. This is not your London. Your London is a place of choking coal smoke, gaslight that casts greasy yellow shadows, and a poverty so absolute it feels like a physical illness. You live in a slum where a dozen families share a single water pump, the very same pump that is likely spreading the cholera that will kill half your neighbors. You have no job, no family to speak of, and your stomach is a tight, aching knot of hunger. You are a prime candidate for a new venture. You are about to become a tosher. The term is slang. The more respectable name is sewer hunter. You are a freelance, subterranean treasure hunter. Your hunting ground is the sprawling, labyrinthine sewer system beneath London. A brick-lined underworld, a man-made river of sticks flowing with the collective waste of millions of people. This is not a legal profession. The sewers are the property of the Crown, and being down there is technically trespassing. But the authorities mostly turn a blind eye because you are dealing with a problem they can't solve and venturing into a place they wouldn't be caught dead in. Literally, your goal is to find tosh, which is slang for anything of value that has been washed down into this underworld. Mostly, it's copper coins, lost to the gutters and swept away by the rain. But there is also the chance of finding silver, jewelry, scrap metal, or even, as the legends whisper, the dropped loot from a bank robbery. It's a lottery where the grand prize is a full belly and the ticket is your life. Your tools are simple and iconic. First is the Tosh pole. It is a long, heavy staff, at least 6 feet long, with a small iron hoe fixed to one end. This is your multi-tool. You use it to probe the thick, dark sludge on the sewer floor, feeling for the telltale clink of metal. You use it to test the stability of the ground in front of you. And you use it as a weapon because you are not alone in the dark. Your other essential piece of equipment is a lantern, usually a bull's eye lantern, strapped to your chest with a leather harness, leaving your hands free. It cuts a narrow, focused beam through the oppressive darkness. You also carry a coarse canvas sack for your findings, and wear the heaviest, most hobnailed boots you can find to protect your feet from broken glass, sharp metal, and the endless legions of rats. An old man named Silas, a tosher, whose face is a roadmap of scars and whose cough sounds like grinding stones, has agreed to take you on your first trip. He sees the desperation in your eyes, the same desperation that drove him into the sewers 40 years ago. He tells you the rules, his voice a gravelly whisper. You don't go in when it's raining, not even a drizzle. A storm half a mile away can send a wall of water down on you before you can even scream. This is the first danger, the flush. A sudden flood that can smash you against the walls and sweep you into the Thames. You watch the air, he continues, tapping his chest. If the lamp burns blue, the choke damp's about. Poison air. You get out or you don't wake up. This is the second danger. Invisible pockets of methane or hydrogen sulfide that can suffocate you in minutes. And you never, ever go alone. The sewer is a maze. A wrong turn can leave you lost in an endless network of identical brick tunnels, your lantern slowly dying as you wander in circles until you collapse from exhaustion. You meet Silas at midnight near a quiet, forgotten wharf. He gestures to a large iron grate set into the cobblestones. A sluice hole. It is your doorway. With a shared effort, you pry the heavy grate open. A wave of cool, foul air rises to meet you. It's a smell different from the Gong farmer's pit. It's less intensely personal and more ancient, geological. It's the smell of rot, industrial waste, damp brick, and the faint, metallic tang of decay on a citywide scale. It's the smell of the city's intestines. Ready to make your fortune, boy? Silas rasps, a grim smile on his face that doesn't reach his eyes. He doesn't wait for an answer. He swings his legs over the edge and begins his descent down the iron. Ladder fixed to the wall, his lantern beam disappearing into the blackness. Now it's your turn. You look down into the gaping hole, into a darkness so complete it feels like a solid object. You can hear the slow, steady drip of water and the distant, unsettling sound of 1,000 scurrying feet. This is it. Your new office, your new hope. A subterranean world of filth and treasure. You take a breath, strap your own lamp to your chest, and follow Silas into the abyss. The iron rungs of the ladder are cold and slick with a greasy, nauseating film. You descend into the oppressive blackness, your world shrinking to the small circle of light cast by your lantern and the echoing scrape of Silas's boots below. The last rung gives way to nothingness, and you drop the final few inches into the sewer itself. You don't land on solid ground. Your boots sink with a sickening squelch into a thick, yielding layer of sludge and a wave of shockingly cold, viscous liquid washes over your ankles. This is the main channel, the river of filth, the clogged artery of the sick giant that is London. For a moment, you just stand there, paralyzed by the sensory assault. The darkness is absolute, a physical presence that seems to absorb the light from your lamp just a few feet away. The air is thick with the smell you met at the entrance, but now it's mixed with the closer, more intimate scent of raw sewage, rotting food, and the damp, earthy smell of decay. The only sounds of the steady D-R-I-P drip. Drip from the vaulted brick ceiling high above, the gentle, gurgling flow of the wastewater, and the echo of your own frantic heartbeat. Don't just stand there like a stuck pig. Silas's voice cuts through the gloom. The tide waits for no man, and neither does the sewage. Keep your lamp high and your pole low. He is already moving, shuffling forward with a practiced gait, his Tosh pole sweeping back and forth, its iron tip tapping against the brickwork and probing the murky depths of the channel. You follow, trying to imitate his movements. This is the art of toshing. You quickly learn that you don't find things with your eyes. The water is an opaque soup of horrors. You find things by feel. You push the pole through the thick sludge. On the sewer floor, a disgusting mixture of mud, human waste, and decomposing garbage. You are listening for a single beautiful sound, the sharp clink of iron on metal. It's like panning for gold in a river of poison, a treasure hunt conducted entirely by sound and touch. The tunnel is a marvel of engineering, a perfect brick cylinder stretching into the darkness. But its perfection is marred by the filth it contains. A thick layer of gray-green slime coats the walls, and strange, pale fungi, which toshers call sewer moss, grow in feathery clumps. As you move deeper, you become aware of another sound, a background noise so constant you almost missed it. A faint, dry, rustling, skittering sound. It seems to come from the wide, brick ledges that run along either side of the central channel, just above the waterline. Your lantern beam drifts upwards, and you freeze. The ledge is not made of brick. It is a solid, writhing carpet of rats. Hundreds of them, thousands. Their bodies are sleek and fat, their whiskers twitching, and their countless tiny eyes glint in your lamplight like a field of scattered rubies. They are the true citizens of this underground kingdom, and you are. The trespasser, Silas, doesn't even flinch. He bangs the butt of his tosh pole hard against the brick wall. The loud crack echoes through the tunnel, and the carpet of rats ripples, a wave of motion flowing back into the smaller side tunnels and crevices. Scurfers, he grunts. They're bold. They get used to the lamps. Never let 'em get behind you, and never, ever fall down. The sheer horror of the sight, the living, breathing pestilence of it all, almost makes you turn and flee back to the ladder. But the thought of the gnawing hunger in your belly, the utter destitution waiting for you up above, is somehow even more terrifying. So you swallow your fear, your throat clicking, and press on. You walk for what feels like an eternity, probing, scraping, finding nothing but the soft thud of the pole in the muck. The monotony is as draining as the fear. Your back aches, your arm is tired from the weight of the pole, and the cold of the sewer water has seeped deep into your bones. You begin to think this is a fool's errand, a cruel joke played on the desperate, and then you feel it. A faint, but unmistakable, vibration through the wood of the pole. A clink, your heart leaps. You stop, probing the same spot again, carefully. Clink, clink. It's there. Got something, you whisper, your voice a dry croak. Well, don't just admire it. Fish it out, Silas says, stopping and turning his lamp towards you. Now comes the hard part. Using the small hoe on the end of your pole, you carefully scrape away the sludge around the object, trying to pull it towards you. Finally, you see a glint of brown metal. You take a deep breath, hold it, and plunge your hand into the freezing, filthy water. Your fingers close around the object, and you pull it free. You wipe it on your already foul trousers. It's a penny. A single grimy Victorian penny. It's a pathetic prize. It's barely enough to buy a stale loaf of bread. But as you stand there, waist deep in London's refuse, holding this small, worthless coin, it feels like the greatest treasure in the world. It is proof that survival is possible, even here. It's the first drop of clean water in an ocean of poison. It is hope. You drop it into your sack, where it makes a small, lonely, clinking sound. First of many, boy, Silas says, a rare note of something almost like warmth in his voice. Now, let's see if we can find its mates before the water rises. The thrill of your first find, as pathetic as it was, fuels you for the next hour. The work is still grueling, the environment still a nightmare, but now it is punctuated by possibility. You follow Silas as he turns off the main sewer artery and into a smaller, older tributary. The change is immediate and unsettling. The air here is heavier, more stagnant. The brickwork is from an older era, crumbling and coated in a thicker, blacker slime. The flow of waste is slower, more concentrated, a thick, greasy porridge that clings to your boots. This is where the real tosh is rumored to settle, away from the powerful currents of the main channel. The old ways are the rich ways, Silas mutters, his voice a low echo. Things settle here, get forgotten. He's right. Over the next hour, you find 3 more pennies and a small pewter button. It's not a fortune, but it's more money than you've seen in a month. You feel a dangerous flicker of optimism. And then, Silas's pole hits something that doesn't just clink. It makes a dull, heavy thud. He probes around it, his movements suddenly sharp and focused. It's big, he whispers, a new energy in his voice. Help me. You both work frantically, using your poles to scrape and lever the object out of the thick, sucking sludge. It's heavy, and it takes your combined strength to pull it free and drag it onto the narrow brick ledge. It's a large, rolled-up sheet of lead, probably stripped from a roof and lost during transport. It's incredibly heavy, and to a scrap dealer, it's worth a small fortune. This is the score. This is the jackpot that makes men risk their lives. In this subterranean hell, this single find is worth more than a month's wages for an honest laborer. The elation is dizzying, a giddy rush that makes you forget the cold, the filth, and the fear. You are rich, if only for tonight. As you and Silas are securing your prize, trying to figure out how to haul the cumbersome sheet back to the surface, you hear it. It's a new sound, different from the drips and the skittering. It's a low, distant rumble, a vibration you feel more in the bones of your feet than you hear with your ears. You look at Silas, his face illuminated by the twin beams of your lanterns has gone rigid. The look of triumph has vanished, replaced by pure animal terror. The flush, he hisses, his voice cracking. Run. The sewer is not just a passive system. It's a machine. And you've just heard the gears begin to grind. Someone upstream, a sewer official, has opened a sluice gate to clear a blockage, or a sudden, violent rainstorm has broken over the city. It doesn't matter why. The result is the same. A tidal wave of stormwater and sewage is hurtling through the tunnels towards you. The distant rumble grows louder with terrifying speed, becoming a definite roar. The rats, your foul, furry barometers, sense it too. The ledges explode with motion as thousands of them squeal in terror and flee into the higher crevices and pipes. The true citizens of the sewer are panicking, and that is your cue. There's no time to get back to the main tunnel, no time to reach the ladder. Your prize, the lead sheet that was your salvation moments ago, is now just a heavy anchor that will drown you. You abandon it without a second thought. Up! Silas screams, pointing with his pole. High on the wall, there is a small circular opening, a storm overflow drain, barely 2 feet in diameter. It's your only chance. You scramble, clawing at the slimy bricks, your hobnailed boots slipping and finding purchase. Silas is right behind you, shoving you upwards. The roar is deafening now, filling the tunnel, the air pressure changing around you, a foul wind heralding the wave's arrival. You pull yourself into the overflow pipe, your body scraping against the rough stone, and turn to help Silas. He tumbles in beside you just as the world turns to a churning, liquid chaos. A solid wall of black water, debris, and filth smashes into the tunnel below, rising instantly to just inches beneath your refuge. The sound is like a continuous thunderclap as the torrent rips through the confined space, a horizontal waterfall of unimaginable power. You see pieces of wood, dead animals, and the detritus of the city streets carried along in the violent current. If you had been a second later, you would have been part of it, your body smashed against the bricks and swept towards the Thames. You huddled together in the small, dark pipe, drenched in foul spray, your hearts hammering against your ribs. You are alive. You are safe for now, but you are trapped. The prize is gone, and you can do nothing but wait in your tiny stone pocket, listening to the sound of the city's rage roaring just beneath your feet. The roar fades to a rumble, the rumble to a gurgle, and finally to the sound of a swift, powerful river where a sluggish stream once flowed. You and Silas remain huddled in the overflow pipe, a cramped, circular prison smelling of stagnant water and rat droppings. The adrenaline that fueled your frantic climb is gone, leaving behind a deep, trembling cold that has nothing to do with the filthy water soaking your clothes. It's the cold of near death, the chilling realization of the paper-thin margin you just lived on. You've survived the city's colonoscopy. The procedure was a success, but the patient is screaming internally. Close one, Silas breathes out, his voice raspy and thin. His usual gruffness is gone, replaced by the shaky tone of a man who has just looked into the abyss and seen it looking back. I knew a lad, young fella named Finn, got caught in a flush up by Fleet Street. They found his pole a week later, wedged in a grate down by the river. Never found him. He says it matter-of-factly, but it hangs in the air between you. A ghost story told by two men who almost became ghosts themselves. The silence that follows is profound, broken only by the rush of the water below and the drip from the pipe above. After what feels like an hour, but is probably only minutes, Silas stirs. Water's dropping. We go now, while the air is clean. The water level, while still high, has receded enough to expose the slimy tops of the ledges on either side of the channel. Carefully, you both climb down from your refuge, your limbs stiff and clumsy. The tunnel is transformed. The thick, familiar sludge is gone, scoured away by the sheer force of the water. The brickwork is washed clean, revealing its age and its wounds, long spiderwebbing cracks you hadn't seen before. Your prize, the heavy sheet of lead that promised you a month of security, has vanished without a trace. It's as if it never existed. Your sack is empty, save for the few pathetic coins and the pewter button you found earlier. You risked your life tonight for nothing. Losing the lead sheet feels like your winning lottery ticket being snatched out of your hand by a hurricane. Silas checks his lantern. The oil is low. Your own lamp flickers, the flame dancing precariously. Your light is your lifeline. Your lantern's oil level is now the most important chart in your entire life. "We've got maybe an hour of light," Silas says grimly. "We need to get back to the main shaft. No more toshing tonight. Just surviving." The journey back is a new kind of nightmare. The flood has not only washed the tunnel clean, but it has also rearranged the landscape. New blockages of debris have formed, forcing you to wade into the fast-flowing, chest-deep central channel. The water is powerful, pulling at your legs, trying to knock you off your feet. Each step is a struggle against the current. The air smells different too. It's thick with the scent of disturbed silt and a deep, earthy rot, as if the flood stirred up the very bones of the sewer. You navigate the labyrinthine passages in tense silence, relying entirely on Silas's instincts. He isn't a guide. He's a human GPS powered by decades of misery and an uncanny sense of direction. He points out a new, wide crack in an archway, a section of wall that seems to be bulging inwards. The flush has weakened the very structure of your world. The sewer, your workplace, your source of hope and terror, is actively trying to kill you. The feeling of defeat is a heavy, cold stone in your gut. Every aching muscle, every shivering breath reminds you of your failure. You could have been warm in a pub by now, a month's earnings secured. Instead, you are lost in a crumbling, filth-filled maze with barely enough light to find your way out and nothing to show for it but a handful of pennies. You almost stop, the sheer futility of it all threatening to overwhelm you. But Silas seems to sense your despair. "The sewer gives, and the sewer takes," he says without looking back, his voice echoing in the tunnel. "That's the bargain. Tonight it took, so you live. You live, and you come back tomorrow. Or you die up there in the gutter. There ain't no third choice." His words are not comforting, but they are steel. They are the grim mantra of the survivor. This isn't about one night. It's about the next, and the one after that. Finally, after an eternity of tense navigation, you see it. A faint, vertical line of less darkness ahead. It's the iron ladder, the way out. The climb to the surface is the hardest physical feat you have ever performed. Your arms shake, your legs feel like lead, but you pull yourself upwards, rung by rung, escaping the clutches of the underworld. You push the heavy grate aside and haul yourself onto the cobblestones of the street. A night air of London, a foul mixture of smoke, grime, and humanity fills your lungs, and it is the sweetest, most wonderful thing you have ever tasted. You lie on the street, a wretched, soaking, and empty-handed survivor, looking up at the few faint stars visible. Through the city's perpetual smog, you have escaped. You are back in purgatory, and it feels like heaven. The walk back to your hovel is a silent, squelching march of shame. The two of you and Silas, part ways at a crossroads with nothing more than a grim nod. There are no words of comfort, no shared reassurances. Your bond is not one of friendship. It's a partnership forged in shared trauma, and words are useless. You both know the truth. You are lucky to be alive, and you are failures. You have nothing to show for a night of terror but the filth that clings to you like a second skin. Back in the damp, crumbling room that you call home, you peel off your soaking clothes. They stand on their own, stiff with dried sewage and river mud. The first thing you do in a ritual of pure self-flagellation is to empty your sack onto the floor. The pathetic little pile of 3 copper pennies and a pewter button mocks you. This is the sum total of your earnings. It is not even enough to cover the cost of the lamp oil you burned. You have, in essence, paid for the privilege of being almost crushed, drowned, and swept into the Thames. The economics of your profession are brutal. A single bad night doesn't just mean you go hungry. It means you go into debt. As the adrenaline finally drains from your body, it's replaced by a deep, penetrating cold. You begin to shiver, a violent, uncontrollable tremor that rattles your teeth. It's not just the cold of the wet clothes. This is something else. A fire begins to burn behind your eyes, and your head feels like it's being squeezed in a blacksmith's vise. Your body is now a hostile takeover environment for every ambitious microbe you inhaled or ingested in that flood of filth. You have the sewer fever. You collapse onto your pathetic excuse for a bed, a pile of straw, and rags in the corner. The world dissolves into a swirling nightmare of pain and delirium. You spend the day and the next night in hell. The fever is a merciless tyrant. One moment you are burning up, your skin on fire, sweat pouring from you in torrents. The next, you are freezing, your body racked with shivers so intense your bones ache. The fever dream is a highlight reel of your worst fears, directed by a sadist. You are back in the sewer, but the walls are closing in, the water is rising, and the rats have human faces. You see the glint of the lost lead sheet, but when you reach for it, it turns into a tombstone. You hear Silas's voice, but he is yelling warnings you can't understand. You are trapped endlessly in the moment before the flush, the roar of the water, a constant thunder in your mind. There is no one to bring you water, no one to offer a word of comfort. Your hovel isn't a home. It's a recovery room where the only surgeon is time, and the only medicine is your own dwindling fortitude. You are utterly, completely alone with your sickness, a common and expected outcome of your chosen path. After what could be a day or a week time has lost all meaning, you wake up. The fever has broken. It has left you as weak as a newborn kitten, your body hollowed out and aching, but your mind is clear. You are alive. You lie there, listening to the sounds of London outside, a city that does not know or care that you have just fought and won a silent, solitary war against death. You take stock. You have no food. You have 3 pennies to your name. You are so weak you can barely sit up. The logical choice, the sane choice, would be to give up, to drag yourself to the steps of the workhouse and surrender to its cold, institutional mercy, or to simply lie here and let the hunger and weakness take you. The choice isn't between a good life and a bad life. It's between a quick, violent death in the sewer and a slow, grinding one in the workhouse. But then you look across the room and see your tosh pole leaning against the wall, and you remember the thud of it hitting the lead sheet. You remember the weight of it, the solid, undeniable reality of a real score. The sewer takes, Silas had said, but it also gives. The memory of that potential wealth, that one lucky strike that could change everything, is a powerful and addictive poison. It's the gambler's logic, the desperate hope that the next turn of the card, the next night in the sewer, will be the one. Slowly, painfully, you force your trembling body to move. You pull on your stiff, still damp clothes. You pick up your lantern and use your last few pennies to buy a small measure of oil. Every instinct, every screaming nerve in your body tells you to stop, to lie down, to surrender. But you don't. You pick up your pole, you open the door, and you step out into the evening twilight, a ghost walking towards his own grave. Going back down is the ultimate gamble. You're doubling down on a bet that has already tried to kill you. But in the desperate arithmetic of your life, it's the only calculation that makes any sense. You meet Silas at the usual spot. He looks at you, his eyes taking in your god frame and the lingering weakness from the fever. He doesn't offer sympathy or ask if you are well. He simply sees that you are standing and that you have shown. Up, he gives a single sharp nod. It is a nod of acknowledgement. You have passed the true test. You have faced death, stared into the abyss of failure, and you have come back for more. You have proven you are a tosher. You descend into the sewer that night, and something inside you is different. The fear is still there, a cold companion that never leaves, but the naive terror is gone. It has been burned away by the fever, leaving behind a hard, cautious resolve. You move with a new purpose, your senses sharpened not by hope, but by the intimate knowledge of just how quickly this world can kill you. The years that follow are a long, monotonous grind, a blur of countless nights spent in the city's underbelly. You don't get rich. You just get older. The sewer is a casino where the house always wins in the end, but it lets you win just enough, just often enough to keep you at the table. Some nights you find nothing. Other nights you find a pocket of coins or a silver spoon that pays for a week of rent and gin. You learn the geography of the tunnels, like the lines on your own scarred hands. You learn the moods of the sewer, the subtle signs of a coming flush, the places where the foul damp gathers. You and Silas become a seamless unit, a two-man machine of subterranean survival. He is the closest thing you have to a friend, though your conversations are little more than grunts, warnings, and the occasional shared, grim chuckle over some particularly strange piece of refuse. Then, one night, the sewer finally collects its debt from him. It isn't dramatic. There is no flush, no tunnel collapse. You are working a side channel when Silas, probing ahead of you, lets out a soft, wet cough, a sound as familiar to you as your own breathing. He stumbles, his lantern flickering wildly. He doesn't cry out. He simply pitches forward with a quiet sigh, landing face first in the shallow, greasy water. He doesn't move. His warranty, after decades of rust and misuse, has finally expired. The great survivor, the man you thought was as ancient and indestructible as the tunnels themselves, is dead. Killed not by a great danger, but by a simple, mundane failure of his own worn-out body. You stand over him for a long time, the light from your lantern painting a halo around his still form. There is nothing you can do. You cannot carry him. Out. The world above has no place for the body of a dead Tosher. He belongs to the sewer now. It was his life's work, and now it is his tomb. You do the only thing you can. You take his pole, his lantern, and the few coins in his sack. These are the tools of the trade, and they cannot go to waste. You leave him there, a silent, dark shape in the flowing water, and you walk away, the weight of his gear a new burden on your shoulders. You are alone now, truly alone. The years pass. You are Silas now. You are the grizzled veteran, the ghost of the sewers, a local legend whispered about by the desperate and the destitute. Your face is a mask of grime and premature age, your hands gnarled into claws. And one evening, as you prepare for the night's work, a boy approaches you. He is young, rail-thin, with the unmistakable look of raw hunger and desperation in his eyes. The same look you had all those years ago. He asks if the stories are true. He asks if you can teach him. Seeing him is like looking into a haunted mirror. You see the ghost of your own hope and your own damnation. Every rational part of you wants to tell him to run, to choose the workhouse, to choose starvation, to choose any fate other than this. But you don't. You look at him, and you see yourself, and you know there is no choice for people like you. You simply give him the same hard, assessing stare that Silas gave you. "It'll kill you, boy," you rasp, your voice the same gravelly whisper you remember so well. Might be tomorrow, might be 20 years from now, but it'll get you. The boy flinches, but he doesn't run. He just nods, his jaw set. He has already made the calculation. He is already a dead man. The only question is how long he can put it off. You sigh, a sound that seems to carry the weight of 1,000 nights of filth. Get a pole and a good pair of boots. Meet me here at midnight. Tonight you descend again, but not alone. You lead the boy down the iron ladder into the darkness. As he takes his first hesitant steps into the sludge, his eyes wide with terror, you begin the lesson. Keep your lamp high and your pole low, you say, the words tasting like ash in your mouth. And don't just stand there like a stuck pig. The cycle is complete. You have become the final boss of the tutorial level, preparing a new player for a game that cannot be won. Your story isn't written in history books. It will be forgotten, washed away like the filth you spend your life chasing. Your only legacy is this boy, this continuation of a secret, miserable history, a story written in the flow of wastewater and the crumbling foundations of a city that you helped, in your own small way, to keep from choking on itself.